In less than rather than 3 months to go before the UK is due to keep the EU, focus is concentrated on how to hold urgent trading means of communication through the British Canal flow as swimmingly as probable. But in the occasion of a not-deal Brexit, this UK outgoing the EU out of any official departure treaty and no transfer time, by the government's own consultation contradicts him. A declaration given by the Office Space recent monthly told how crucifix government planner assumptions include been fixed to show how, in a lowest case script, down there will be really considerably diminished accessing through the brief passage among Dover and Calais for up to 6 months. The declaration marked how, in a not-deal script, the EU would levy complete tertiary country controls on human beings and consumer goods incoming the EU of the UK. The effect, the Office Space told, would influence both of imports and supply at Dover and Folkestone, household of the canal tube, since of the common and close hinge environment of the crossings. So why has Dover be so essential to the UK's economical framework? It is by far the largest purpose in the nation for coil-on coil-off ferries, named as RORO, that tool goods is managed on and off quite rather than raised by cranes. Dover processed 2.9 millionth units of RORO cargo recent year, largest of that were freight transport in drivers. It is as well the major accessing path for trading in the otherwise of the EU within the solitary marketplace. Freight transport now just driving on and off ferries and are on the highway during a question of protocol. But any freight transport inbound of a non-EU nation, such as Switzerland, are object to much longer intermittent. If customs officer Dong T wished to verify whatever, how would yet latency the car by on in time or in time and apart time the motorist waits for a judgment? Andrew Baxter, the operating CEO of the cargo logistic business Europa World, said a building of House of Commons board recent year. If customs officer requested to do a document verify, how could latency it by up to 3 several hours, and if down there was an examination of the consumer goods, how could latency it by up to 5 several hours, he added. Although such a checks are in the low solitary digits in % regulation, it doesn't get lot for length queues to evolve in the tightly limits of the seaport of Dover. How's why by the government says how, in the occasion of not deal, it would minimize checks at Dover to the big degree probable and could, in theoretical, just wavelength trucks via. Yet, as the Office Space acknowledges, it cannot monitoring which the EU will do on the some party of the canal. Supporters of Brexit, although, include told sequentially how the risk of havoc at Dover has been overdone. The prudent MP Jacob Robmog has frequently cited a statistical how it conducted just 6 seconds to full customs officer checks for consumer goods inbound at the seaport of Southampton of external the EU. Down there is, he has offered, no cause why ports such as Dover cannot carry out such system. DP Planet Southampton, that operates the canister terminus in the seaport of Southampton, affirmed how customs officer declarations are machined in about 6 seconds, but it underlined how, at how spot, the goods is not customs officer cleared. It usually conducted on in time for customs officer gap to be finished following a ship arrives at seaport, but critically how depends on customs officer declarations and some documents creature submitted characteristically 2 to 3 days up the vessel reaches Southampton. It is a framework how plants so at ports love Southampton or Felixstowe for consumer goods inbound of the some party of the planet. If a vessel is at sea for several weeks, it gives companies lot of period to get all their office work in procedure. The problem in RORO cargo, that becomes more than severe as crossings get shortened, is how you include less than period to do how. On the 90-min travel of Calais to Dover, in the steep amount of traffic that uses how path, it is thing of a non-starter. One capacity decision on the some party of the canal, on to Andrew Baxter, would be to strength companies not to use Calais as a customs officer spot for check industry consumer goods, but to use internal gap points instead of, maybe in the EU nation of definitive purpose. No one wants intermittent, on each party, he told, or we include to be pragmatic. But EU law would not enable public health and security inspections for meal and pet means inbound of a tertiary nation. Love the position Brexit UK, to get location really far internal. They include to be transferred out at nominated boundary examination posts, BIPs, at the at first spot of accession in the solitary marketplace, on 100% of means. How has led the Domestic Farmers Association to alert how components of the UK meal production could person disastrous ensuing consequences as a outcome. The Environmental Secretariat Michael Gove appears to accept. At the time down there are no boundary examination posts at Calais, Mr. Gove said the Oxford Agriculture meeting on Thursday. Time we do expect the France get stairs to construct power down there, how power is hardly by the end of March to be lavish. It's a gloomy but inevitable reality how in the occasion of a not deal Brexit, the efficient tariff on bovine and lamb flesh would be over 40%, he added. In both of cases on 90% of how exportable trading goes to the EU. And lot of it is transportable via the Canal tube or of Dover to Calais by ocean. Happy modernize yours web browser. If you include an enormous sum of area, down there are ways to try to minimize the issue of queuing. Rotterdam in the Netherlands is Europe's greatest seaport, and several of the cargo glass how are sent down there are inspected at a bit more than rather than 40 many kilometers of the furthest arrive terminals, but yet within the seaport credibility region. RORO traffic is a slight various, since the cargo is followed by a motorist and it is lot more than period dependent, particularly if freight transport are transport crisp make. But the effectiveness of the framework is, on to a representative for Eurofrigo, the business how rest BIPs in Rotterdam, one of the major reasons customers use how path for importing and exportable. So, can some ports stake the loading, to get several of the tension off the system in Dover? How is surely portion of the by the government's accident planner? Thanet Area Justice, that rest the seaport, believes it has the capacity to supporting up to 24 ferry boat sailings a day, though original plans are for far less crossings. Dredging of the harbor, to enable the ferry boat path to resume, began the 1 week. Some ports could as well grow their power for processing RORO traffic. On 10% of industry at Felixstowe, the UK's greatest seaport by amount of trading, is now RORO, and it could knob more than. But the travel period of Felixstowe to Rotterdam is on several hours, lot much longer rather than the Dover-Calais cross and thus less than easy for fair-in-time manufacture processes, and more than costly. And though if Felixstowe traffic went up by 10 to 20%, how would just equal to 1 to 2% of the traffic at Dover? I don't believe how not deal in null mitigating measures for transportation can job, told Pauline Bastidon of the Cargo Transportation Associate. Down there's no two ways on it. You can go trading to various ports, you can regulate yours delivery circuit, no of it will be quite. Some ports are as well worried how they may not be prepared to manage in additional traffic if it is abruptly derouted of Dover. Portsmouth World Seaport, for sample, now transports up to 500 freight transport a day overseas. But regional councils are concerned on traffic jam and intermittent if additional traffic had to be processed in the occasion of a not deal Brexit. This range among the cargo verifying desktop at Portsmouth World Seaport and the start of the highway is fair 13 truck lengths, told a declaration given on Thursday by justice leaders in Hampshire, so a queuing of 14 freight transport or more than would indicate queuing traffic on the highway. How reflects a wide unanimity during the production how down there is now no sustainable option to Dover, and how it will get period to changing the framework. 5 to 6 months would be a sensible period for things to settle downward and for human beings to get utilized to new ways of work, told Andrew Potter, a logistics specialist at Cardiff College. But ports love Rotterdam and Ostend would as well include to carry out EU checks, and down there is as well the issue of expenses. Additional expenses include to be paid sometime, Dr. Potter told. They each get gone on to consumer or they hit the income margins of the companies implicated. In the meanwhile, as Parliament prepares to voice the monthly on Theresa May's Brexit transactions, that includes a transfer time of 21 months following Brexit. While all the rules would remain the identical, business community are possessing to get ready for all probable outcomes. As an advocate of Brexit, Andrew Baxter of Europa World is comparatively extraordinary in the cargo logistic production. He believes down there will ultimately be a Brexit transactions to hold trading driving, but he has to do accident plans fair in instance. I requirement to include a division in 40 human beings, up and fleeing for March 29 in the occasion of not deal, he told. I refuged he got it at the time, and I'm start currently. We can't expect any much longer.